Can I get a shake? It tickles me, not you, and it gets me going. There you go. Can I get a shake? Sure. There we go. Can I get a shake from you? We'll talk about this in a little bit. So my name is Joseph C. Welte, and if you look at this building behind us, the brick, and pretty much about 40–50% of the brick here in Pueblo, also throughout Colorado, and much of the United States, my life really revolved all around brick. So to go back to the beginning, I was born in 1866 in Iowa, and my parents were immigrants from Germany. My father was a cobbler, so he made shoes for the whole community. Well, back then you can imagine that sometimes a cobbler's salary didn't enable us to meet all ends, and so I oftentimes had to go and work for the family. And in our small town in Iowa, we did have a small brick making plant. So I got to work there. It was a great job. I learned a lot, and it was a great experience. But then, like all young people at that time in history, I didn't want to have anything to do with all the mundane jobs like making shoes or making bricks. I wanted to go out west and find gold. That's what everyone was doing. So when I was 22, it was 1888, I took the train to Denver. And then I got off the train and took the coach up to Cripple Creek. And that's when the gold fever really started. So I was a grub staker. And I don't know if you know what a grub staker is, but basically you do whatever it is you know how to do, and you do it well enough to earn enough money, to save enough money, until you can stop doing that, and then you can go out, claim some land, and then prospect for gold. So I did that until I was flat broke. I did it again until I was flat broke. Everyone kept on saying, keep up, you're gonna find the gold, you're gonna strike the gold eventually. I even went as far as Nome, Alaska. So you can imagine Nome, Alaska in the 1880s. I was just this quiet, shy Catholic boy, and here I was in Nome, where every man who walked down the street had a 6-barrel on his hip, and every night I'd see 1, 2, 3 people killed in the casinos and in the gambling houses. So it really wasn't my place, but we did hear about some really good places to prospect for gold inland in Alaska. So we tried that too, but no luck. And of course in Alaska you have to leave before the winter comes because you have to wait until the next season in order to get out. So I found myself back in Cripple Creek, but this time I was really deep in the mines. We were doing some special blasting and ore work deep in the shafts. And we had a special system for when we needed to get out of the mines and also when we needed the ore to get out of the mines. So if we pushed the buzzer one time, that signal meant that we were just shooting ore straight out through the shaft. And it would fly literally out through the doors, the hatches at the top. If we pushed the button twice, 2 buzzers, that meant that we were on top of the ore in a basket and we wanted to get out too. So that meant that they needed to send us up slower. Well, we pushed the button twice, 2 buzzers, and nothing happened. We did it again, nothing happened. We realized the gentleman at the top of the shaft, he was asleep. And when he did hear the buzzer, he only heard 1 buzzer. So I was flying through this shaft. I was just saying my goodbyes. There was nothing I could do. I was really scared, terrified. But by the grace of God, one of the assistant managers was up at the top, and either he heard something, he saw something, or he felt something, and he realized there was something wrong, and he took a peek down, and clearly he could hear me screaming and yelling coming up the shaft. So he opened the doors, opened the hatches. I literally flew out of the shaft, and then when I landed and rolled and landed and rolled and I stood up, I was alive, couldn't believe it, but I told myself I'm never going back down into the mines. So I had to rethink this whole mine thing and gold thing. I'd only made $52 in about 10 to 12 years of prospecting for gold, so that wasn't a really good return on my investment. And I really wanted to do the brick making, but since I'd worked in a brick making plant before, I really wanted to do it on my own terms. So I'd been to Pueblo before, and I fell in love with Pueblo. I liked the weather. I loved the Arkansas Creek. I loved the Arkansas River, and I loved the Fountain Creek. And so I found some investors, and we opened up the Summit Brick Company over on 13th and Erie on the east side in 1902. And there were two really great reasons why we did that, many of them, but the two most important were, one, the clay along the Fountain Creek was perfect for what we were doing. It was excellent for making bricks. And the second reason was there were a lot of families on the east side having a hard time, and many of them couldn't get jobs in the steel mill. So I was actually able to hire a lot of workers who were right there in my own backyard. So that was a great thing. And there were a lot of families having a really tough time. One of those was the Nason family. And the Nason family, sometimes it got so bad in the winter that they would actually walk the rails that go right along Fountain Creek. And they would pick up pieces of coal that had fallen off of the trains just to heat up their little house over on the east side. So I hired the father and the two sons, and they came to work for me. They also had a beautiful daughter, Pauline Sophie Mason, and I called her Pearl. And in 1909, we got married. She's 20 years younger than I am, which doesn't bother me, but she doesn't like it so much when we go downtown and we tell people that she's 20 years my junior. But we had a great marriage, a great time bringing the family together. So you guys have been really polite. You really haven't asked me anything about my hand, was a hand, but my hook. Are you curious as to what happened with my hand? Yes. So I'm usually pretty good about worker safety at my factory. And we have this huge machine. It's called a brick press machine. And it does exactly what its name says. It presses bricks. So one day it malfunctioned. So I turned off the machine and I went down, kind of crawled in there, was trying to kind of jostle it a little bit. And one of the other workers up above didn't know that I was down there doing just that. Well, he turned on the machine and it did not malfunction. And off with my hand. I don't even remember, it happened so quick. But when I talked to the doctor says, so what do you want to put on the end of your hand? So I had a hook made, I had a prosthetic hand made, and I also had a prosthetic hammer made. So I was a carpenter, and I figured, well, I don't want to stop not being able to do the things I did before, so he made a hammer. I would have worn it today, but it's really heavy. So, but it's a really nice thing. Doctor says, what do you want on the end of your hand? And I said, well, I want a hammer. So probably you haven't heard that before, but I had a hammer. But I also had to change a lot of things. You don't realize when you lose a limb, you got to kind of change a few things. So one of them is I couldn't shave anymore. So I had to go to the barber every morning, which I really didn't mind too much. I also had to learn how to write with my left hand. And then every time I had my photograph taken, which was often, I would always put my hand behind my back. But I managed really well. But you're probably getting a little bit of a better picture of what it was like to be in Pueblo and to make bricks at that time. And the Summit Brick Company, which has been around since 1902, it's been operated by about 4 generations of Weltes, and you can find the brick just about everywhere, especially in Pueblo, the Art Center, all the high schools, the ice rink. That's just to name a few. Even to this day, my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren actually operate the plant. And in fact, just a few weeks ago, they delivered their last shipment of bricks for a 55-story skyscraper in New York City. So literally, Summit Brick is just about everywhere in North America. So I look back at my life, and it may not be so glamorous and adventuresome as I thought when I was 22 and I was going to go out west and make my fortune in gold mining. But I realized that good luck is really just a lot of hard work. It's a lot of perseverance, and in my case, a lot of stubbornness. So when I look back, it's been a really great life, and I wish you all the same. Thank you very much.